In this video I want to try and explain about box effects. So let's start ViziGen-Page and open the training course project from its file. So the easiest way to explain what a box effect is to take a look at some. So if we have a look at a template, this outer, the big black box, if you look closely you can see that the edge has a graphical effect, and similarly the tabs on the nav bar have got a graphical effect, and even this black box in the center of the page with its blue border, that's got a box effect. So applying box effects once you've created them is extremely easy. For any box, just display its properties, and one of the fields is box effect. So if we were to take that off, you can see that it's gone, but obviously we want it on. So how do we create or define these box effects? Well, it's all done on the Globals tab, and if you look down the tree view you'll see there's a node for box effects, and this project has got 3 box effects. So let's take a look at blue border box to see how it's been configured. So name and description are self-explanatory. Probably the most important field is the source, because there are 2 main types of box effect. Internal box effects are created by ViziGen-Page, and you do that by filling out simple forms like this. And external box effects, for them you have to provide the image that the box effect is created from. So you either have to know how to use a graphics application so that you can create the box effect image yourself, or you have to go to a graphics designer to get him or her to do it, or you have to obtain the image by some other means. So let's display the image that ViziGen-Page creates for blue border box. So there it is. Now let's have a look at the settings. So all you do is specify the origin, the width, the height and the depth. The depth is important because what effectively gets created is a 3-dimensional panel, and the end result is the 2-dimensional image that's produced by shining a light onto that 3-dimensional image. So here you would set the angle of the light, and this gives you shadows and highlights. So you can also set the color, and for the edge settings you would set the corner width and height, the corner type, which can be square, round or beveled, and the edge type, which can be flat, convex or concave, and you also can set the color. So let's change some of these settings and see what we get. So we've changed the corner width to 20, corner height to 20. We'll change the corner type to round and click on update, and there you can see that is the new image that gets generated. So if we now change some of the layer settings, we'll change the depth to 20, and we'll change the angle to 45, and update, and that's what we get, and we've got a bit of a 3D effect there. So let's change the color of the central part of the image. We'll change that to dark blue, click update, and that is the result. Now there's one important thing to mention, and that is that it doesn't really matter what size you make your box effects when you're setting the width and the height. Just set something that's close to what you're going to need. So if it's an effect for a tab on a nav bar, then you'd have something fairly small. If it's going to be a big panel, then something biggish like this. Because what ViziGen-Page does is it takes the edge sizes and the corner sizes and it will construct an image of the required size. So this is the simple variant of the internal type of box effect, and it's called simple because the edges and the corners all share the same settings. So if we take a look at a box effect which is of the fully configurable type, you'll better understand what I mean. So this is tab box, and if we display that, you can see that the top corners are different from the bottom corners, and we achieve that by using the different setting categories that we have on the form. So if we take a look at the top left corner settings, we can see that the corner type is round. If we change that to square and then redisplay the panel, you can see that the corner shape is now totally different from the right top corner. Now what's happening at the bottom is slightly different because these aren't square, these are cut off. So if we have a look at the bottom left corner, you can see that the width and the height are set to 0, and that's how we get the cut-off effect. So now let's take a look at the external type of box effect. So black box is one of these, and with the external type you have to create and provide the graphical image upon which the box effect is based. So if we take a look at blackbox.png, so this is blackbox.png. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. So you can see this is very similar to the images that ViziGen-Page itself will create, but as I said, you have to supply this image, and you only have to supply one image, and it doesn't really matter what size it is, because what ViziGen-Page does is to chop it up into its constituent parts, and then it uses those parts in a tiling kind of fashion to create an image of any size as required for your design. So there's a central area, and it will use a portion of this to tile the central area of the required image, and it will take a section of each edge, top, right, bottom, left, and use those to tile the top edge for the required image, and then on top of that it will place the corners. So let's go back to the form, and you can see that we've got settings for top border, right border, bottom border and left border. So what do they mean? Well, if we go back to the image now, the top border is the height in pixels of this edge effect, and it's the same with the right border. That's the width of the edge effect. You can't really see it on the right hand side, but on the left hand side it's more visible. And then there's the bottom setting too, and ViziGen-Page needs those so that it can do the chopping up and the tiling. So back in ViziGen-Page, corner type isn't really important, and I would suggest that you read up on that in the reference section. So there's just two more things I'd like to mention. If we go to one of the internal types, it's possible to create multiple layers if you wanted to create more complex effects, but the best way to learn about those is to experiment with them. The other thing to note is that with the internal type, the ones that are based on a named colour, which is set here, if you were to change the colour simply by doing something like that, let's choose that colour, then that colour change is applied throughout your design, whether it's the colour of text or the colour of the box effects. And it's not just applied to the box effect itself when it's being configured, it's also applied throughout the design. So that makes it extremely easy to change your colour schemes. Okay, that's it. Thank you.